Hey, everybody. Happy Valentine's Day. I feel like, I don't know, can we put, we're going to put hearts up there. We're going to look all Valentine-y.
All right.
I almost forgot it was Valentine's Day, which is sad.
I know, right?
Until people started texting me. I was like, oh, it is Valentine's Day. It's like really weird to have it in the middle of the week. So we're going to wait for some people to pop on. We want to talk about income and impact and how we can do that, not only with just the media, but also with networking. Networking is a big part of it. And so I definitely want to talk about that. So when you guys pop on, like, share, do all that kind of good stuff, so that we can make sure that we are answering all of your questions. Okay, there we go. Okay, I just want to make sure. I always have to check Facebook and make sure we're on, especially because there's such a lag. And so sometimes you're like, okay, do people see us? But people see us, so that's great. So right. I'm here with Willie. We are back again today. This is like 3 weeks in a row that we have hung out on Facebook, and that's super, super exciting. Willie is with eWomen Network in Houston, and I'm going to be going to Houston on Friday to do a special training. To do a special training on impact and income and how you can grow both using the media. So that's going to be exciting. It really is going to be the first training I've done on this in 2018. So Houston is going to get just a boatload of good information. We'll put the link to register in the comment section so that if you haven't gotten your tickets, you can definitely do that. Also tag somebody that you know in Houston so that they can make sure to get the information. So if they can attend, that would be great. But because I have Willie, and because networking is such a big part of, not only, owning your own business, but it's also a part of getting media, building those relationships and really meeting the people that you want to meet. I wanted to talk to you, Willie, about that specifically today. And I would like for people to learn a little bit more about eWomen Network, since that is kind of the main premise for women to kind of get to know each other and what they do in the world as far as business. So tell us a little bit about eWomen Network and the whole philosophy.
I'll tell you a little bit about eWomen Network. That's a great question. We are really a group of extraordinary entrepreneurial females that we believe in a philosophy called lift as you climb. And what I like to say about lift as you climb is we're all at different levels of where we are in our business. And it's not about me getting to the top or you getting to the top. I mean, we all want to do that. But as you help people to grow, then they're going to help you to grow. And I always like to say, I have your back, you have my back, and let's work together and make this happen. eWomen Network's philosophy is to help over 1 million women make $1 million a year.
Oh, wow.
And so I'm in.
Right? Like $1 billion? Is that $1 billion? What is that?
I know, right? But our philosophy is lift as you climb. And we're across North America. We're in the United States and Canada. And once you become a member, you can go to any chapter. So if you're a member in Dallas, then you happen to be in Houston. Of course, you can come see us in Houston. And you could come twice as a guest. But who doesn't want to make $1 million? And I ask that question, and I'm going to be careful because I know a lot of people don't want to work that hard to make $1 million. You say yes, but when it comes to the work, you don't really want to do it.
And it is a lot of work, but I don't know if it's as much work as people think it is. I think that one of the things that we have to do is learn to work smarter and not harder, because the last thing we want to do as we build a business is build another job that we can't take a break from. I mean, we want to create, a lifestyle friendly business. And so I think a lot of the actually learning the working smarter part is to surround yourself with other people that are like-minded and have the same goals. So imagine like how much you would learn just being surrounded by a group of women who are also on the same track to make $1 million, that 1 million, group of people. And so what are some of the things that you've learned about networking since you've been with eWomen? Like, how have you kind of upped your game? I know you started in corporate America, which is a different kind of networking, and now you're an entrepreneur. What have you learned about networking from your experience?
I've learned so much from networking. I think when you show up to serve first, it makes it much easier. if I come to a networking event and I'm trying to sell to you and you say, oh, I already use that product or something else, then it's a complete turn off. But when I come, kind of like the philosophy of giver's gain, you give to other people and then people give to you. So when you show up, you don't just bring your business card and I say, here, Nikki, here's my business card, pass out your business cards. That used to be how I showed up to network. Let's see how many business cards I can gather, thinking all these people are going to buy from me. But when I showed up with, who can I connect you with? Who do you need to meet? What do you need to go? And so I've changed my whole philosophy about networking. And oftentimes I don't even talk about what I do, because when you walk away and you haven't learned about me, you say, oh, well, I didn't even learn about her. And the law of reciprocity says I want to learn about you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think, I've been in the entertainment business, and that's another kind of networking into itself too.
Yeah.
And so I think that a lot of people do show up. They show up like, this is what I do. How can you help me? And when I first started going to different networking events, I was really surprised by how many people do show up and say, how can I help you? Like, is there anybody that you can think of that I can introduce you to? Is, what exactly that, do you do so that when I'm looking for this, or if I hear somebody that's looking for this, I can recommend you? And that certainly brings a different energy to the experience, because then what happens, and it's wonderful, what happens is then you start thinking like, okay, well, how can I help you? Like, what can I do? If this is what you're going to do, what can I do to kind of do the same thing? And so it really is kind of a different way to show up. And I think that, anything that we do in this world, just to kind of go and, want to serve first, and do it from a place of just honesty and authenticity, and not like, if I do this, then you'll do this, because then that never works either. But to really show up and just want to serve, then you will find that it does come back to you. Maybe not from that person, but that whole, what you give out, you get back, it will come back somehow.
Yes.
So I really love that. I really love that you said that, because that does change the whole networking experience.
It makes your networking experience much easier, because then you're going, if you go back and study John Maxwell, he talks about the best leaders are those that ask the best questions. Well, I think the best network people are those that ask the best questions as well. Yeah. And you want to ask questions that you really learn about that person. But go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and I think you should be prepared to answer that. So instead of, really thinking about what you do and how you can be helped in order to get people to buy your service, think about that, like how you can, really thoroughly explain who you are and what you do, so other people can help you spread that message. It's kind of it takes the whole focus off of the sell part. And it reminds me of, I don't know if you're familiar with Bob Berg, who is the author of The Go-Giver.
Right.
And so it's that whole philosophy. It's like, don't be a go-getter. Don't go and take and just, absorb resources, but really be the person that gives first. Mm-hmm. And so then if you do that, your whole business will change. And I think so many people may think about it personally, and they want to give to their families and give to their friends, but they don't think about it from a business standpoint.
Mm-hmm. And I think your point is well taken. Many times when I go to a networking event, I will ask somebody, who's a good introduction for you? And they've never even really thought about that.
Right.
And so I think as you go, when you ask, what did I learn? What have I learned over the years? One of the things, you want to be prepared. When somebody asks you, who's a good introduction, who do you want to be introduced to? Because if you don't know who you want to meet, how can I know who to give you as a good connection?
Yeah, and basically it helps you drill down on like your ideal client, what your unique value proposition is. I mean, like, what is going to make you unique? What may you be able to provide that somebody else can't? So you have to drill down on your own marketing materials and your brand messaging so that other people can help. What have you found about the follow-up to networking? Because you and I were just talking about, the fortune being in the follow-up. And I think a lot of people miss out because they'll go to these networking events, they'll collect a bunch of business cards, and then they go home and they just kind of pile up. What do you advise people to do when it comes to the follow-up?
Well, I like to do multiple steps in a follow-up. And so we've met, Then the second thing I like to do, walking out of the meeting, I like to text somebody and say, hey, it was great to meet you at eWomen Network. And I
really, while you're walking out?
Well, not while I'm walking out, but maybe when I get to the car.
Okay, but immediately afterwards is what I'm saying.
Yes, it's really before the evening ends. So before I go to bed, I want to do that. And not necessarily while I'm walking out, but it's my rule before you go to bed, send a text to each person that you want to connect with. You might meet some people you don't want to talk to.
That was amazing because actually I was doing some research I was writing a blog about trade shows and how you can maximize your experience from a brand position. And that was one of the things that they said, like definitely follow up within the first 24 hours because, and the same at a networking function, you meet so many people that it could be very difficult for people to remember you and exactly who you are and put a face and all that kind of stuff together if you give it too long of a period before you follow up.
Yes. And I think 24 hours is good. I like to do it before I go to bed because then I'm like, okay, I have to get this done.
Yeah.
I don't want to wake up at 2 a.m. thinking I didn't get done what I needed to get done.
Well, you're good about following up because even when we got introduced via email, because that's how we kind of got, you were right on it. I was like, wow, she's good because I was like, because I am not the best when it comes to follow up. I will admit I am not the best.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I really changed in December. Between the Christmas and New Year's, I try to get myself reorganized, refocused. And one of the things, I had a stack of business cards probably this high on my desk. And I'm like, I don't know where I met these people. I don't know what's going on. I said, in 2018, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to implement my follow-up system.
Right.
So following the text, what I do is I send an email. So if I met somebody today at a networking, tomorrow I would send an email with a little bit more detail.
I am one of the things that I also found that I really appreciate when people do it for me, but I don't really do it, is the whole, like you said, with the holidays, is sending, keeping a list, compiling a list so that you can send something during the holidays or for the beginning of the year, whatever it is that floats your boat. But I got so many nice cards from and not emails, but actual physical cards from people that I had met through the year that just was like, we want to wish you the best in 2018. If we can, serve you or your business, but that kind of thing. And I just thought it was such a nice touch. And so I've tried to get organized to do this going into 2019 as I continue to collect addresses and stuff this year. But, personally, I do it, but I never thought to do it professionally.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like to talk about celebrating unexpected holidays. We often expect to get cards like for Christmas or for Happy New Year, but now we're coming up like on what's it called, St. Patrick's Day or April Fool's Day. Send a card because you're going to stand out to your business colleagues because how many cards do you get for St. Patrick's Day or how many cards do you get for April Fool's Day?
That's great. And I think the other caveat is that you just don't know what people's when you look at like religious holidays, you really don't know what people's beliefs are. And so you may be unintentionally offended, which is why I think I like the start of the New Year card better. You may be unintentionally offending somebody. So pick a holiday, like you said, that not many people will send a card about, but also as a non-religious holiday might be a smart idea.
I think that's very smart to stick with non-religious because you don't want to offend people.
Right. No, absolutely. Absolutely not.
And sometimes you just don't know.
No, and I know that I offended like 2 people this holiday season because I didn't know. And it's just natural, for people who celebrate the holiday to assume that everybody celebrates it because, it's egotistical and it's an assumption that people make. And I was horrified. But, and it was a business kind of connection. It wasn't like a personal thing. But, you just kind of talking and you say, well, happy, Merry Christmas. And they're like, well, I'm Jewish. And you're like,
oh, yes. What am I doing?
Sorry. And you just don't want to offend anybody like that. And I mean, it's unfortunately, like I said, it's just an egotistical assumption that I think a lot of people make that just because you celebrate it means everybody does.
Right.
It's unintentional, but it's good to kind of avoid that if you can. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So how many times, this is another question, I'm just going to pick your brain about this follow-up thing and the networking. So how many times should you follow up with somebody if they don't seem to be interested?
That's a hard question to answer. And when you talk about follow up, I do a lot of different things. And if somebody doesn't seem interested, if they don't genuinely seem interested, I sometimes ask a direct question. Do you want to continue? Do you want to continue talking? But sometimes people don't show interest just because they're super busy or this or that or something else happened. I mean, I was at a networking event and this lady said, call me tomorrow and I want to talk and this and that. And I called him tomorrow and she didn't talk. And I did like 5 or 6 follow-ups and she never responded. Well, one day out of the clear blue, I was looking at my phone and I said, I haven't talked to her since that networking, and she seemed so interested. And when I called her, she said, you wouldn't believe what happened. And she had like 3 deaths in a row and this and that. And so you don't know what's going on.
Well, that happened with us. It's like I had deaths and people got sick and then I got sick. And you are good. I mean, you are organically systematic in your follow-up. I mean, I can tell that you're very intentional about doing it. It's not like, and oh, by the way, let me, text Nikki and see what's going on. I mean, you're very, and I think that you have to be, because it really is, it's a systematic kind of thing, especially after a networking event, because you meet so many people. But I think that you do it in such a natural way that I don't feel like it's a system. You know what I mean? I feel like you generally want to talk to me. And I think that's such a great way to begin any kind of a relationship, professional or otherwise, is to really feel that somebody is genuinely interested in you and your business.
And I think that's a good way to approach it. And don't call and say, I'm following up on what we talked about, but call and say, hey, how are you? It's been a while since we've chatted. I hope everything's okay.
Yes.
Because you do. I mean, you just really do. And you never know what people are going through. So why not just reach out in kindness?
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's so interesting because this is like such a great parallel to networking with media personalities and journalists and hosts and editors, because the fortune is in the follow-up there too, and the fortune is in the building of relationships. So when we started talking about it, I was like, well, this is just like kind of what you got to do with the media, because you really do want to like build the relationship before you actually need to pitch something, or before you want to pitch something. So, it's like a lot of people just send a cold pitch, and they're like disappointed when they don't get a response. But most people, like when I was a producer, I would get upwards of 500 pitches a day. So if I don't know you, I mean, then the chances of me answering your email or even opening your email goes down just a little bit. And so really like developing those relationships with journalists or reporters that you like, or radio show hosts or TV talk show hosts, really starting to develop. And just a clue, you really don't want to go straight to the host because normally it'd be like so funny. It's like Tom, when I was working for Tom, like Tom and I would be at like a function, and people would stampede over me to get to Tom, clearly. But if you're trying to pitch something to Tom, Tom is not the person that you want to go to. And unfortunately, people in the entertainment, radio, media business have a little bit of an ego. So it always offended me a little bit when people would just like rush past me to get to Tom, and then Tom would turn them right back around to get to me. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm the one with the footprints on my back, but you stampeded over me to get to Tom. You necessarily have to have a relationship with the actual host in order to book. In fact, it's better to get to know the editor, the producer, those sorts of people, so that you really can get in front of the people making the decisions. Tom clearly had some say, but I mean, you had to go through me first. And so that's another networking tip when it comes to the media.
So I should send the brownies to you, right?
No, you sent them to the right person. Yeah, In fact, now my kids love you because we got brownies. So you're in on all levels. They were like,
your kids are the most important thing to get in. I always say, I don't care if you celebrate my birthday, but you better celebrate my kids and my dogs.
Well, it was funny because my oldest son was having a bad day. Like, he had a really bad day at school. He had some issues with some friends, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And those brownies came and it turned the whole thing around. He came out of his room. I hadn't seen him in 2 hours. He came out of his room. So, and I don't think people understand, you never know like what situation may be going on. And to get something so thoughtful and, so nice out of the blue really turned all of our days around. And so I think that from that standpoint, when you're really intentional about connecting, something that I'm sure you took, for granted that, because this is kind of who you are.
Right.
But the person on the other end receives that and it just changes their day, changes their perception, and certainly endeared you to our whole family. The only thing you could have done more was send dog treats. Other than that, it's like you got the whole family. So I don't think people think about that. They kind of see it as just one more thing that I have to do, like one more thing that I have to do for my business. And they don't really see it as like the connection that could change somebody's day. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's awesome. I really do.
Well, thank you. Well, I was going to ask you, I think that the networking in media is a little different, and you touched on that a little bit. How do you suggest people network to get connected to the right people?
Well, I think the biggest suggestion that I have, because it does go back to ego. So we definitely, but the biggest tool that we have now that we didn't have years ago was social media. So you can reach reporters and editors and producers on Twitter or Facebook. 60% of all journalists are on Facebook and 75% are on Twitter. So I always suggest just start by sharing their information. Just start by commenting on what they post. Just start trying to get that name recognition down. I mean, I think that when somebody really wants to be value, add value, that they'll do that on all levels. So it's not really, I don't say do it intentionally just to get the interview, do it intentionally because you want to be a resource and you want to be a part of the conversation. But what it does do is it gets people to remember you. Like I booked an interview. She's the sweetest thing. She's a 13-year-old girl who has sickle cell anemia. Mm-hmm. And she has learned how, and I don't know a lot about sickle cell anemia, but apparently sugar and flour and the kinds of things that you would get in store-bought treats trigger the symptoms and make you sick. And so she's developed a way to bake things like cookies and cakes and stuff where it doesn't trigger those symptoms. And she just every day she would say, "Good morning, Mrs. Woods," and she would retweet something. And she would like, "Have a good day." And she did this probably for about a year. And I noticed her, but I really didn't understand what she did. And then finally I was like, well, let me check this out, And she got 4 major interviews out of that because I looked into what she did because I recognized her from sharing on Facebook, from commenting, from retweeting, from saying good morning. And she never said, give me an interview. She never said, put me on the show. But when I looked into her story, it was so amazing. I called. I was like, you need to interview her. You need to get her in front of some people. And it worked. And so that's just a great, kind of story of how people can kind of get interested in who you are just because you're interested in the reporter or the editor. Mm-hmm. So for the follow-up, I always use an example, and a lot of people in my tribe know her, but her name is Lucinda Cross. And Lucinda was on the show, and I didn't even book her. Somebody else booked her, and she came on, and then she sent me, after the interview, she sent me a handwritten thank you note, and she sent me a journal. And you hardly ever get a thank you, much less a handwritten card and a journal. And I was so impressed by that. I called her. I was like, I want to know more about what you do, because if I ever need you again, I'm going to call you. And she became a resource. And it's not so much that she gave me something. It's that she appreciated the value of what we had to offer. And so then I was interested in the value that she had to offer. And so even just, giving a call and sending saying a little short message, is good. She took it like 4 steps further. But you really want to follow up. And like I said, the goal is to really build that relationship and not look at this as just like, okay, what can you do for me? What kind of interview can you give me? How is that going to change my business? But how can we provide value for each other? Because clearly, if I put you on the Tom Joyner Morning Show, put you in front of 8 million people, your business should change. So how can you then continue to be a resource for us and provide value to us? Because we need you just as much in a different way. how can you continue to be the value? So following up, staying in touch, and another little trick I tell people is, even if you're not, a part of the story, if you see a story that a journalist would be interested in, share it with them and just let them know, like, I know you like these stories. This looks important. I just thought I would share it with you. 9 times out of 10, if they need an expert to talk about that story, they're going to go back to the person who sent them the story. So those are just little things that you can do. But, like I said, at the very base of it all, it's all networking and relationship building and connecting on a level of serving first and not the expectation of what somebody else can do for you.
And I absolutely love that, because it's really like networking just in general. Show up to serve. How can I help you? How can I promote you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I think the other thing is the unexpected touches. You don't expect to get a card with the journal. I mean, it makes you say, I need to know this person.
Yeah. No, absolutely it does. I mean, I didn't expect it. It was so appreciated. I mean, the fact that I'm like in love, like I have like 250 journals. The fact that I just absolutely love journals. She didn't even know. But I think that when you want to do something, you get the right direction for it. I think that, it wasn't by chance that she just happened to do it. I think it wasn't, just her wanting to genuinely thank us for what we did.
Right.
And so I think she just got it right because she showed up with that kind of energy. But yeah, I mean, you really to appreciate, all of these human interactions, I think that, we don't do enough of.
Right.
Like, it's like we're so busy just trying to get to the next task that we're never really present with the relationships that we have. And so I think that, like you said, networking, it sounds like, oh, this is just another thing that I have to do for my business. But if you think that, then you're approaching it wrong. Then you're not doing it the right way.
Right. I think that's exactly right. And as you were speaking, it made me think about when you get a chance to talk to people, to show up for them and be really focused on that. Don't be over here checking your phone and checking your text and looking at who else is coming into the room, but really focus and ask great questions, because I often see that people are checking their phone 5,000 times and you're like, well, I guess your phone's more important than I am.
No, it is an energy that you bring. You can tell when people are like genuinely interested in you. It's like I was talking about, I was given some interviewing tips, and I was like, one of the biggest pet peeves I had when I would interview people is that they were so focused on giving the answer that they wanted to give that they really didn't even let me ask the question. Like I wasn't done and they were trying to answer whatever it is that they wanted to say. And it's not exactly what you're talking about, but to me, it was like they weren't even present in the conversation. They just had one goal on their mind, and that was to sell their product or service. But I'm trying to have a conversation. Like I'm really trying to get to know you and open you up so my audience gets to know you. But you're not even focused on that part of it. You're just trying to sell something. And I think that we all like can show up to events and you can see that I'm just like a number. Like you want to meet 10 people tonight and I'm number 3. So you're already focused on who's going to be number 4.
Yes.
And that's a turnoff. Like people, you don't like that. And so it really makes a difference when you genuinely feel like somebody wants to connect with you. I mean, it just feels so different. And even though I think you can be intentional about that, like be intentional about being present and like you be intentional about following up, I don't think that means like calculated. I just think that it means that you're focused. That's an important thing to you. And you want to make sure that you attempt what you can on your end to grow that connection. And I've definitely felt that from you because, there have been times when, like I said, I was I was in a corner somewhere and here comes Willie with the text, just checking on you. I haven't heard from you. And I'm like, you really feel like people care. And like I said, it doesn't seem like much, to somebody that may be doing it because that's who you are. But to the other person receiving it, it definitely changes the game.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like that when I was thinking about what you said, you're opening up your audience to somebody. If somebody comes in and they try to answer your questions before you've asked that, the audience feels that.
Oh,
they
absolutely.
feel that energy. And I'm like, here you are doing such a positive thing and people are stepping on their own toes.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know that half of it is just that you need some media training because, you may be nervous or, I don't think it's like ill intent.
Yes.
But I think that it's also, just like if you're talking to somebody and you're trying to have a discussion, and before you can even, somebody, you're just like, really? And so, yeah, it's definitely kind of like this dance that you want to do. It's not like whoever finishes first wins. It's like something you do together. And
Yes.
I think that with any interview, you can kind of tell when, on both sides, like if the interviewer has a set amount of questions, sometimes they want to just ask those questions and they don't even hear what the answer is.
Yes.
But to me, like an interview is a conversation. Like you could say, I could ask you a question and you could say, well, yeah, but the sky is purple. And if I go straight to my next question and don't even acknowledge you just said the sky is purple, the audience is going to be like, what's going on? You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, I like to be prepared. I think people should be prepared. I think people should be in tune with the topic, in tune with who the audience is, because you want to speak to the audience. I mean, you can have 28 different kinds of audiences. So you want to make sure you're talking to the right one. Say, for instance, at eWomen's Network, I mean, I'm sure you have men that are fans of the network too, but your audience is women. And so, you want to make sure that the message is always tailored to female entrepreneurs. And so, you want to be in tune to that, and you want to just show up and have a conversation, show up and give. And I think that changes the whole dynamic of the conversation for not only you and your business, but also for the audience and the information that they receive.
Yes. Yes, I think it really does. And it is about, eWomen does have men in it. And so you want part of your message to be applicable to men, but you really want to think it's the female entrepreneurs in the group that are your main audience.
No, absolutely.
We'll have guys there on Friday. So you men come join us.
But you know what? And I tell people, like, when it comes to branding, like, you have your ideal client. But because we are awesome at what we do, because we provide such great content, we're going to get people outside of that ideal client. And that's fine. I mean, people are just going to come because you're awesome. Right. No matter what what they look like or who they are, what sex they are, they're going to come because you're awesome. But you always do have to keep in mind who your target audience is, because if your target audience is women and you start talking like football to them, 98% of your audience is going, huh? And they're going to tune out because it doesn't, they don't feel connected to that. There's of course some women who love football, but most women, are kind of like, I just show up on Super Bowl.
That's right.
I just show up for the nachos.
I want to see that. I want to see what the commercials are.
Yeah, and so you have to always be in mind who keep in mind who your audience is, who your target client is, and speak that. And just because the information you give is awesome, everybody else is going to leave feeling like they got something. But you don't want to alienate the people that, that are in your community, in your tribe, in your audience. So definitely. Right. So and speaking of that, networking and learning and training and just being in your community, I will be in Houston on Friday for eWomen's Network. We're going to do kind of like a lunch and learn. We're going to eat, we're going to learn, we're going to network, we're going to meet, we're going to see what we can do to support each other in business. And I think it's going to be just a ton of fun. I am so excited.
I'm so excited too. I can't wait to see you. We're going to have a great time.
I know, as much as I love Willie, like we've never met in person, so I can't wait to hug you.
I know, right? It was a virtual hug.
I am just so appreciative of you. And I have to mention Kelly. I mean, you guys have just been phenomenal. Kelly, I've known for a while. But I feel like I've known you just as long. And so I can't wait to see both of you in Houston. There is still time to register to get tickets. We'll put the link in the comments section. If you know somebody in Houston, certainly tag them. This is for people who are, looking to start a business, but are also looking to build, what they already have into something much greater. And for those who want to be surrounded by a community of like-minded women and some men who want to make a million people, $1 million, I'm in for it, and so I hope I will see you there.
Yes, I can't wait to see you and meet you in person, because I do feel like I've known you for a long, long time.
I know, and I love you. So that's going to be Friday. Definitely click the link, and like I said, share the broadcast with your communities. But if you know somebody particularly in Houston or a drive-up area, because I'm driving up from Dallas, but in a drive-up area, definitely let them know about this, and we will see you there. Willie, I will see you on Friday.
Sounds great. Take care. Bye.
You guys have a great day. Happy Valentine's Day. Enjoy this day of love.
Yes. Happy Valentine's Day.